Hello everyone, and thank you so much for watching the video. I have been putting out a series of videos in the recent past called Pandemic Isolation. I did take a little bit of time off because it's just a lot of information to deal with. There's so much going on in the news. The entire country, the entire world is being affected by this, so it's really hard to keep up with. Plus, it's really stressful to just all day long just read articles and then just gather the ones that you think that would fit best with a video and release it on YouTube on a daily basis. It's just really hard to do. Plus, I work full time already. Well, at least I kind of did. Now, I'm an essential worker, technically speaking, because I work for a hospital network, HCA hospitals. And I work for a multitude. I work for over 20 of them throughout the state of Florida with my company. And they've already given us paperwork to put into our glove box or keep with our person, just in case that if we get into heavy lockdown and if we get pulled over on the way to work, we have official documents from HCA, the actual hospital network, as well as my company that I work for that services the hospital network. So if we get pulled over, we can actually show them, like, look, I'm an essential worker. I have to go because the work that we're doing is helping the pandemic, or helping to curb the pandemic in any way possible. But what we do specifically, we just release for my job specifically. If there's a doctor's office or a hospital, any other hospital in the United States, most of it's concentrated in Florida because we service local hospitals. But if there's local doctor's offices, hospitals, and the like, if they need records, if they need test results, anything like that, I'm the person that receives that request, and I put it into our system, and we take care of it for them. So we've been getting a big uptick in COVID-19 requests, obviously, especially as the weeks have been going on. It's really been ramping up. But we also service anybody else who is asking for medical records, and that includes attorneys' offices if somebody gets into a car accident, or insurance companies, for example, and a whole bunch of other different companies and businesses and the like. So we've received a huge downtick in people who are requesting records. And with that said, they are cutting our hours down. So me being an essential worker working for a hospital network, we are even having our hours cut. So if anybody out there has been furloughed who's listening to this, trust me, like, our hours are being cut as well. So right now, and I'm sure it might get worse before it gets better because the economy is just doing terrible right now. I think we're up to 15 million unemployed people who have filed so far. And they've cut our hours down to 32 hours a week because they don't want to start furloughing workers in our department, because we service so many of these hospitals, and we are a contract company. So we have to provide the services regardless. And if we don't provide the services, then we're all going to get let go. So it's a lot more important for the company to try to keep everybody there together. So instead of laying off a few people here and there and keeping everybody else at 40 hours, we're all agreeing to lower our hours all at once. That way we can all be still employed and keep our benefits and things like that. So so the sacrifice that's being felt around the country, it's hitting me for sure. I mean, even going back into February, I didn't stockpile. I mean, I went out to a grocery store called Aldi. I don't know if any of you listening that have heard of this grocery store, but I spent about $100 there. So if you're familiar with the store, you would know that $100 in that grocery store goes a pretty long way. So I bought a lot of canned goods and things like that. And again, this was like in mid-February. So I was like literally the only person in there that was bulk shopping to any extent. I think I got like 6 gallons of water that day. So I wasn't piling up toilet paper or anything like that. It was just one of those situations where I saw a certain YouTube video, and they were like, you got to get stocked up right now because this thing is coming. Most people aren't aware of what's coming down, but it's going to happen. So I took their advice. So I went out and I bought a bunch of canned vegetables, canned fruit, lots of Campbell's soup and things like that. It's off-brand. It's all Aldi brand Campbell's soup, but tons of ramen noodles. I mean, I did like, I mean, what did I spend? Like, I spent like $2.30 on 12 packages of chicken ramen noodles, and I think I bought 4 of those in 2 separate trips, mind you, and actually in 2 separate weeks. So I am very mindful and respectful of the shopper. I'm not going to be that jerk that goes in there and just gobbles up everything there. So, but I did take the precautions, and you know, I'm ready to ride out the short term of what may get worse. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, things are getting tough. They're getting difficult. And that's really the main reason why I took a few days off of doing coronavirus videos. And if you're new to this, if you go back into my channel, I used to every single day, I think for about almost a month, I did a daily video, just pulling different news articles. I tried to keep it as apolitical as possible. I just grabbed articles that looked important, that was worth discussing for that day. And but fortunately for this video, I was able to scrape enough together to make a fully positive video. So I'm not going to cover any negative news. I grabbed a few articles, I think 5 or 6 different articles that showed an upside of the virus, like you know, a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be covering in this video. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get started now. And you know, saying that this whole video is positively oriented, I will have to say, because I did watch the president's speech tonight, you know, tonight as in April 14th tonight, and he led with probably the most the most important news subject matter of the entire day with the start of his speech. So I do have to at least say this: some may see it as good news, some might see it as bad news. So if you see this as bad news, then this video is not 100% good news, but I'll just start it off with this. The president said that they're going to be stopping the funding of the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, until further investigation has been finished to find out, you know, why did the World Health Organization side with China in the way that, I think it was in January, the World Health Organization made a public or a publication to the world saying that COVID-19 does not spread from human to human. There's some other things that they had said that are very controversial, that they turned out to be very wrong about. And the president, and I'm sure other members of either the cabinet or the government as a whole, wants to look into the organization because we fund $500 million per year for the WHO. And for them to give information that we now know is false, because when they told us that it was not transmissible from person to person, the government of China already knew that it was, because they were locking down the city. I'm sure it was just the city of Wuhan at that point. But so, yeah. So that was in the news. But other than that, I think it's generally pretty good news that I've got lined up here. So let's see here. So we're expected to have 150,000 to 200,000 ventilators by the end of this year. And I may have worded that a little slightly wrong. The way that it might have been worded in the speech was we might have up to 200,000 ventilators by this time next year. So it's either by the end of this year or it's by this time next year. Either way, we're not that far into 2020. So either way, that would be phenomenal if we get that many ventilators in. So that's good. Elon Musk, he said he was going to dedicate parts of his company or his companies to creating ventilators, but they haven't delivered on that yet, but hopefully they're still working on it. Okay, so that's it for that. And let me go ahead and bring up the articles here. So if you haven't watched my previous videos, this is usually what I show first. I show the coronavirus map. It's on Johns Hopkins University website. And the actual URL is here. It's coronavirus.jhu.edu/map.html. Obviously bad news. I mean, any of these numbers is bad news. So, but because I'm so consistent with showing this map, I didn't want to leave it out of this video. So you can just read the numbers for yourself. You can pause the video if you want to know more, or, you know, just take the time to look at all the numbers individually. And if you have been following these videos, they have actually updated the site to give different sections of it. So they actually condensed it down to the US, and then they show more information that's more detailed pertaining to I would assume, the individual states or the most affected regions in the United States. That's actually what it looks like. So those are the most affected regions, infected regions rather. So yeah, so I won't go into any detail as far as this goes, but I'll just show you that's kind of what it's looking like right now. The curve, I mean, every time I look at it, it looks like it's trying to curve over, but my eyes, they kind of, it seems like they're deceiving me. It looks like that last dot is starting to curve toward like the flat level, but I don't know. But every day that I look at it, it just looks like a straight line. But who knows? But anyway, that's what I have there for the Johns Hopkins map. And then this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average pertaining to the economy, the stock market. I think it's the top 50 companies, no, top 30 large companies listed on the stock exchange in the United States. This is basically the overall performance of the top 30 companies in the United States, and it's represented by this number. And it went up 558 points today, which is really incredible. It's really good. I, for one, am absolutely shocked that we're looking at almost 24,000 in the middle of April. I'm surprised that we're not looking at less than 10,000 right now. I thought like once they started shutting down the economy, I thought that the stock market was just going to free fall down to zero practically. But it's holding above 20,000, which I think is phenomenal. It's incredible how good it's been doing. Relatively speaking, because with what we've been dealing with as individual people, I mean, things look way worse, or they feel way worse than what this number is showing us. So, all right, so now I typically do this. I usually use Google, which I don't like doing because they're very left-sided when it comes to the news, and I intend on proving this point. Well, not proving the point necessarily to them being more left-leaning. I mean, I think that these links will show that it'll show itself. I plan on just like really quick clicking like the 5 pages worth of news articles and just scrolling real fast, and just highlighting the good news articles versus the bad ones, which I did not highlight. And it's a pretty extensive list. I'm sure it's been updated since I last visited this webpage, so I might have to scroll a little bit more. But California Gavin Newsom, he unveiled a guide to lifting the state's coronavirus restrictions, which I actually did pull up that article. I took it from this list. So I don't know why they have a Chinese publication on an American website, because I live in the state of Florida. I'm not sure why that's there, but that's Google for you, folks. And the next page here, let's see, scrolling down, no good. There's one, how contact tracing can help fight coronavirus. So it sounds like a good news story, hopefully. A lot of New York Times. Google loves the New York Times for some reason. And let's see, scrolling down. And this is in my area, actually, on Bay News 9. That's in Tampa Bay. Pasco County's first coronavirus patient nears recovery. That's a good story. Like it or not, it's a good story. Somebody's getting better, even if it's only just one person. So the next page here, just moving on down. A lot of left-leaning publications. Nothing good to see there, apparently. More and more, and they may have jumbled up this list to some extent. I did highlight some, and I did go up to page 5. So it looks like some of the stories they've scrolled away, because I highlighted at least 8 or 9 of them. Yeah, they're just not showing up. But it's a lot of CNN. It's a lot of The Guardian, New York Times, Washington Post. It's all left-leaning. And to me, that's kind of disappointing, because Google, since they control like, what, 80% of the entire internet. I mean, I think they should be a lot more fair than that. But, I think they're in Silicon Valley. I could be wrong, but I mean, all is to be expected if that's the case. But all right, I'm not seeing any more of them. That's kind of a shame, because I took the time in the first 5 pages. I read every single highlight or every single headline, and I'm not seeing my stories. But yeah, look at this. I mean, it's like all left leaning. It's crazy. It's like nonstop. I mean, I know I'm scrolling fast, but like, come on. I mean, it's more of the same. So yeah, if you go to Google for your news, you're going to get a lot of CNN, you're going to get a lot of New York Times, and occasionally you'll get like CBS, Washington Post, Politico, and all that stuff. I won't say anything bad, but yeah, so anyway, I'm done with that. I think that's ridiculous. But anyway, this is on an interesting website, and they mentioned this in the president's press conference. It was not today; it was a few days ago, and they mentioned clinicaltrials.gov. You can go to this website and take a look at open studies that are currently being conducted for coronavirus. And I don't know if you plug in all that, if you'll come up to it. I actually I Googled it. I think no, I didn't. I actually typed in. Oh man, what did I type in? It was like, oh, I wish I can remember what it is. But if you go to clinicaltrials.gov, and I don't know if there's going to be a search bar or something, but if you look at like this, for example, 2019 NCOV, it might bring it up. But this is a web page that will show you all of the different studies that they're conducting on coronavirus on the official on an official basis. With clinicaltrials.gov, obviously a government website. CDC, I think, is quarterbacking this website, if I'm not mistaken. But see, like this one's in London, the United Kingdom, Egypt. So this is worldwide. China is mentioned a couple times here. So, and you could click on one of these individual things like COVID-19 symptom tracker. You click on that and it will give you details as to what it is that they're studying. So if you want to look at some of that information, it's there and it's available for you. Oh, and I closed out my internet here. All right, so this is the point where I start to jump into the news articles here. Now, this is on CNBC. Definitely a good story. I mean, and I did the segue on purpose. There are now 70 coronavirus vaccines in development as the race to find treatments also gathers pace. Now, scientists around the world are scrambling to find a vaccine, the ultimate COVID-19 panacea. There are now 70 candidate vaccines in development, up from 44 on March 20th, according to a document from WHO published Saturday. Experts expect it to take between 12 and 18 months to get a vaccine approved for mass use. Of the 70 COVID-19 vaccines in development, only 3 are currently in the clinical trials, meaning that they are still being tested on humans. Clinical trials are designed to assess the safety and efficacy of a new drug and consist of several phases, each involving more patients. China's CanSino Biological, in partnership with the Beijing Institute of Biotechnology, is in the lead with the only candidate vaccine currently in the phase 2 trials. U.S. players Moderna and Inovio Pharmaceuticals are the 2 other developers testing vaccines on humans, and both are currently in phase 1. The remaining 67 potential vaccines are still only in the preclinical trial stage. To bridge the gap between now and then, when a vaccine is approved, scientists continue to search for effective treatments, with efforts focused on several existing drugs. British healthcare giant AstraZeneca has joined this effort, announcing today that it would start a clinical trial to assess the potential of Calquence, a drug already approved for the treatment of leukemia and the treatment of the immune response associated with COVID-19. The trial is expected to open for enrollment in the coming days in the U.S. and several countries in Europe. So that's good news. Let's see here. So let's see. Separately, there has been some encouraging news on Gilead's remdesivir, a drug originally developed to treat Ebola. New data published April 10th in the New England Journal of Medicine revealed that 68% of 53 hospitalized patients showed improvement after taking the drug. However, this was not a controlled study. Rather, the data came from a compassionate use program, which is where experimental drugs are offered to patients who have a disease with no authorized therapies. So experts urge caution when interpreting these findings. So that's the end of that article. And I will bounce right to the next one here. This is on One American News Network. And the link is up here. I mean, you can just, copy it as you look at it. I mean, my apologies. I probably should be leaving this in the description, but, working full time, next week I start working 32 hours a week. So maybe I might have enough free time. I'll have one extra day off during the week. I'm slated to have Monday off, because we're all given, just to keep up with what we have to keep up with. They put me in the slot for Monday, so I'm going to have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. So maybe on Monday, but I tend to do this more than once a week, so I don't know if I'll have the time to do it, but I know it would be nice for me to be able to plug all this stuff into the comment section, or not the comment section, but in the description of the video. But it's just extra work that I barely have enough time just to put all this together. But anyway, it's there if you wanna find it, or you can just take the 20 seconds and type this out, and then just finish it off with OAN in, and then it'll take you there. Just the same with all the other articles that I cover. So anyway, a Wisconsin company releases COVID-19 blood test into the United States market. So you can finally buy not buy a private test, but you can finally actually purchase your own test. Although I believe the article says that it's technically intended for your doctor, not for you as a consumer, but for your local doctor, which is still important. So anyway, let's get down to the bottom of it. So a Wisconsin medical company has released a blood test which will help in determining who's immune to COVID-19. On Monday, Milwaukee-based ARC Point Labs announced the new blood test has been released into the U.S. market, making it available for millions of Americans. The test will identify new cases of COVID-19 as well as people who have antibodies in their blood that kill the virus. According to ARC Point Labs, or I guess it could be Arc Point, not sure, but the U.S. was previously reliant on tests administered out of Germany and China. The FDA has already greenlit the tests, noting they are more accurate and helpful in fighting the pandemic. Quote, my advice to individuals who want to be tested is to go through their healthcare provider because I think that this test, like other tests, need to be performed and results delivered in the context of a healthcare professional, end quote, stated Dr. Robin Patel, president of the American Society for Microbiology. The new test is quick and simple as it uses a finger prick of blood on a test strip and has a 97% accuracy rate. That's right, folks. You can get a pinprick test for COVID-19 now, and it is 97% accurate. So hopefully they're going to roll this out like crazy, because that would be a really nice thing to have in our society. Especially from what I've been hearing lately, that they want to start rolling out plans to test somebody to find out if you have the antibodies in your system. Because if you do have COVID-19 antibodies in your system, then that means that you already got it, and now you're immune to at least the current wave of it. Like you're immune to the COVID-19 that we're fighting right now. So, which means that if you tested positive for those antibodies, there's nothing that should be keeping you hunkered down in your home. You should be able to return to work, because if you get exposed to somebody with COVID-19, it doesn't matter. And there's some studies, and they don't know the percentages. They're still pretty loose, but I've heard anywhere from 30% to 50% of the population could possibly contract COVID-19 and not get any symptoms. Or the worst symptoms might be a stuffy nose, or maybe a light cough, or the loss of your taste and smell. That's basically what I've heard, and I hear that that's a significant amount of the population. But I think all of that is to be determined. But that's what I've heard in mainstream news sources over the last few days. So anyway, all right, let me go to the next one here, folks. This is going to take us down to dailywire.com. I know, again, just like all the others, it's long-winded. It's a long URL to have to type out, but you could also maybe just Google this. Pence announces 20 million antibody coronavirus tests to be made per month. And let's see, when was this published? On April 13th of 2020, so just yesterday. All right, so here we go. Vice President Mike Pence announced on Monday during the White House, let me click out of Ben Shapiro there. Vice President Mike Pence announced on Monday during the White House Coronavirus Task Force that 20 million antibody tests are now being produced per month, which will likely be a key component to reopening the economy. A new antibody test, let's see, let me just read this. I mean, I should have highlighted the whole thing. Quote, a point that I will ask Dr. Birx to expand on in just a moment is the fact that beyond the new 15-minute tests by Abbott Laboratories, beyond what we expect to be a new antibody test, which may well be approved by the FDA in just a matter of days, Pence said. An antibody test that would be produced at the rate of 20 million tests per month. The reality is that those commercial laboratories that the president brought in here the better part of 2 months ago and initiated the public and private partnerships with, have been producing hundreds of thousands of tests every single week, Pence continued. But as Dr. Birx and our team have apprehended, we believe at this point in time that of the Roche equipment out there that does the high-speed testing, and we informed governors of this today, we think that some 20% of that capacity is not being used with regard to the Abbott M2000 systems. We told governors today that we think 75% of that laboratory capacity that exists in the United States today is not being utilized by our governors. So there you go. Maybe a shred of good news. I mean, I love being on the good news train. I really do. I mean, will it actually pan out? I don't know, but it sounds good today on April 14th. So, we got to take the good news where we can find it. And that sounds okay. Now I'm going to bounce back to One American News Network with this one. And with this article, it is Governors praise Trump administration for coronavirus outbreak efforts. And they highlight 3 governors in particular, and I'll go into detail here. Now, this was updated on 3:32 p.m. Pacific time, more importantly, on Sunday, April 12th of 2020. If you watched the president's White House briefing yesterday, you will have noticed that he played a video that kind of showed what his version of the truth was versus what the mainstream media is putting out there in terms of the president's combat against the coronavirus. So, in part of that video, he showed these 3 governors, and specifically, I don't know about the Louisiana governor that's down here on the. I don't know if he was in the video, but I know these 2 governors were the governor of California and the governor of New York. But I'll start with Governor Newsom. I just wanted to make that known that if you watched the press briefing yesterday, this might look a little familiar, but yesterday was Monday. This was put out on Sunday, the day before that. So this article here is not reflecting the president's press conference at all, because this was indeed published a day before that press conference. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just, you could either watch the press conference yesterday, which would have been Monday, the 13th of April, 2020, or we can just move on. So let's just do that. All right. So despite political infighting, state leaders have taken the time to thank the White House for its assistance during these troubling times. On Friday, California Governor Gavin Newsom praised President Trump's efforts to help his state during the COVID-19 crisis. Newsom, who has frequently clashed with the White House, touted the president's ability to get a Navy ship to California, which was deployed to help alleviate pressure on local health centers and also for nursing homes. Quote, every single direct request that he was capable of meeting, he has met, end quote, stated Newsom. Quote, we have the USNS Mercy in California because of his direct intervention and support, end quote. Let's see here, and we move on here to, I think we're getting into New York here. According to the governor of New York, President Trump has been very helpful as the state becomes the epicenter of the ongoing pandemic. Quote, the president has been very helpful. The USNS Comfort has been very helpful. The Javits Center, 2,500 beds, 2,500 beds. The Army Corps of Engineers did a phenomenal job. It was like in 1 week, they came into the Javits Center, built an entire field hospital, and now they're staffing it. End quote, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. Last month, the president activated the National Guard in California, New York, and Washington State. He also deployed 1,000 military personnel to New York City. At the same time, President Trump recognized the efforts of multiple state leaders, including Cuomo, who ensured the delivery of needed medical supplies to hospitals and provided more beds for patients. And we'll wrap it up here with the Louisiana governor. The president also applauded Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards for doing a good job protecting residents. All 3 governors have enacted stay-at-home measures to stop the virus from spreading. California and New York have also canceled school for the rest of the academic year. Edwards has said that he is considering following similar measures as Louisiana students are scheduled to return in May. According to health officials, social distancing measures are having a positive impact, but the country has yet to experience its peak in COVID-19 cases. So that wraps up that article. Let me just jump straight to the next one here. We're going to jump right back here to CNBC. Just a moment. Got to wet the whistle. All right. Here we go, folks. My apologies. Let's get back to our regular scheduled programming here. All right. So this is, again, CNBC. California Governor Gavin Newsom unveils guide to lifting state's coronavirus restrictions. I highlighted a couple of these, but I believe that they'll detail it down there. And if they don't, then I'll come back up. But I believe those are entailed here too. So the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, went on to outline 6 key indicators that will guide the state's decision as it considers lifting the stay-at-home order. The first one, the ability to monitor and protect our communities through testing, contact tracing, isolating, and supporting those who are positive or exposed. The second one is the ability to prevent infection in people who are at risk for more severe COVID-19. Third one, the ability of the hospital and health systems to handle surges. Fourth one, the ability to develop therapeutics to meet the demand. The fifth one, the ability for businesses, schools, and childcare facilities to open, or to support rather, not open, support, obviously, physical distancing. And number 6, the ability to determine when to reinstitute certain measures, such as the stay-at-home orders, if necessary. Even once the stay-at-home order is lifted, Newsom said society won't snap back to normal. For example, he said restaurants will likely have to limit capacity and face coverings in public will likely be common. Face coverings, face masks. So anyway, let's see here. He quotes here by saying, "There's no light switch here. It's more like a dimmer than it is a light switch," he said at a news briefing. It will not be until we have herd immunity and a vaccine. Herd immunity means that the virus just spreads out through an entire populated area, and once everybody gets it, it's kind of like chickenpox back in the day. Like if you're a kid, if you don't have chickenpox, but like your best friend gets chickenpox, you have a chickenpox party, and now you all have chickenpox, and you're gonna be fine because you're a kid, and kids are fine with chickenpox, just like with COVID-19, in my opinion. That's what it seems to be. It seems like kids are pretty resilient for COVID-19. But that's herd immunity. Herd immunity is when a large portion of the population gets it, and once they get through the sickness, then they're fine, they're immune to it, and then everybody can go back to normal because the majority of people have already gotten it. That's herd immunity. So anyway, and a vaccine. So you may be having dinner with the waiter wearing gloves and maybe a face mask, where your temperature is checked before walking in. These are likely scenarios. And he wraps it up there. And I'll close with this here. Ultimately, the governor of California said society will have to remain vigilant at least until there is a vaccine for COVID-19, which is unlikely to be discovered and produced before 2021. Harvard, they published something today. I'm not going to cover it in this video, but I did read it, at least the headline for it, and they said that they're now talking about 2022. But you know what? To be honest, it's a novel virus, which means it's a virus that we've never had any contact with before. We don't understand it in ways that we understand other viruses. We're still combating the flu virus. Yes, we have flu vaccines, but there's so many mutations of the flu out there. I don't know how many there are. To me, it feels like there's dozens of them out there. And we don't have a fix-all vaccine for flu. So, I mean, no, this is a good video. Okay, it's a good video. So we will find it. All right, we will. I'm not going to cast doubt on that. I mean, we were quick to find the vaccine for H1N1, the swine flu that broke out in 2009. I remember that because I work for hospitals. At the time, I worked for a very large hospital in Tampa, and once they rolled the vaccine out, as a hospital employee, I had to get the vaccine. So, I have very, very little doubt, at least today, that somewhere in the world somebody's going to find the absolute vaccine for this virus. Because how much money do you think that somebody's going to make if they say, "Hey, I've got the fix-all vaccine. This thing will absolutely kill coronavirus." As soon as you get a shot in your veins, it's done. You're done. You're completely immune to anything that has to do with coronavirus or COVID-19 more specifically. I mean, what, 7+ billion people living on the planet right now? Everybody gets one. Even if they wanted to charge like $15 a head or per person, it's you can do the math on that one. That's going to make a company extremely rich or an individual extremely rich if they can managed to get the vaccine. So there is a lot of incentive to come up with this vaccine. Not to mention that, I mean, I would say by and large, the entire world's economy has come to a standstill. I mean, you're even looking at what is it? The country of Spain. I mean, they're starting to roll out universal basic income for the next 2 years. I mean, that will absolutely crush an economy. So, but still, they're going to do it anyway, probably because they're a part of the European Union. And, you know, if they just roll it out, all right, fine, we're just going to roll out universal basic income. You know, if our economy collapses, then the European Union is going to have to prop us back up again, just like they did with Greece back in, what was it, 2011 or something like that. So, you know, kind of easy for them to do that because they're not a standalone country. They belong to like a network of 22 countries economically. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can do with that is, you know, go for it. I don't know how well that's going to work. Probably really badly, but yeah, but there's a lot of incentives. Like, I mean, all these economies are shutting down and people are losing their jobs. I think in the United States, like as of today, we're somewhere around, I mean, I would actually give a more broad number. Anywhere from probably 16 to 20 million people have been reported as unemployed right now, or as filed for unemployment in the United States, which proportionally, I don't think it's by the numbers. I think it's by the percentage is starting to get proportionate to what the Great Depression was showing. So, I mean, we've got a lot of motivation to come up with this cure-all vaccine, and hopefully it'll come out really soon. But they're saying it's not going to be until like that article said 2021. Harvard saying 2022. I doubt it. I mean, I would be surprised honestly if it took more than a year, because I know there's protocols. I know there's a process. I know they have to go through 2 or 3 stages of you know, clinical trials just to make sure that this vaccine isn't going to kill certain people, make sure that, you know, by and large, anybody who takes it will be okay. I mean, like virtually everybody, really. You know, it's not going to make your heart explode. It's not going to make your blood pressure jack up. It's, you know, it's not going to do this bad thing or that bad thing to you. So yeah, it does take a lot of time to make sure that this virus will actually work, or not the virus, the vaccine rather. So now check out this one. This is the second to last article. This is pretty cool. Or it's not cool at all, but I just thought it was just really interesting because whenever you think of cartels and gangs and rebels, it's virtually impossible to find a positive article to describe those 3 things. I mean, impossible. I don't think I've ever read an article that says that drug cartels did something positive. All right, as reported by Greenwich Time, which I'm not familiar with, but you know, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they did put out this article and I mean, they convinced me as far as they could. It looks like that these writers here are employed also with the Washington Post. One publication I have, I have lots of doubt with, but nevertheless, I had to cover this. So here we go. In Afghanistan, the country of Afghanistan, the Taliban has dispatched health teams to far-flung provinces to confront the coronavirus. In Mexico, drug cartels are offering aid packages to those feeling its economic impact. In Brazil and El Salvador, gangs are enforcing curfews to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. As governments around the world have responded to the coronavirus, so too have armed insurgents and terrorist groups and drug cartels and gangs, a parallel underworld of public health policy and strategic messaging. Now, yes, I had to read that slow because it just blew my mind. Every word kind of blew my mind there. It's like you get these organizations that the mainstream media paints as like the absolute worst pawn scum of all pawn scum of humanity. And here you are, here they are, they're propping them up and showing them as you know, a force of good in you know, this atmosphere of the pandemic that we're dealing with right now. I just thought that was incredible. Now there's a lot more. Now a lot of this is doom and gloom, but I just read just the gist of it because, you know, they reported it. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm just saying that this website and these Washington Post writers, they're the ones that covered it. So I just read just the initial summary, like what they expect most people to read. But yeah, if you want, you can revisit this webpage and, you can read the rest. I did read the entire thing, but I want this to be a good story, or not a good story, but a good video overall. But if I keep reading on and on, it's going to start siphoning away the goodness from this video. So, but it is on Greenwich time. Cartels, gangs, and rebels join coronavirus fight. Type that in on Google. I'm sure if you add Greenwich time to the end of it, it'll take you straight there. I would assume it did. Hopefully it does, unless Google's all screwed up somehow. I don't know. They usually are, but whatever. All right, now let's wrap this one up. Let's see. With number 9 on the Daily Caller, bears, coyotes, and bobcats are reclaiming Yosemite National Park during the coronavirus shutdown. Now, that's all to be expected. I mean, that it is shut down, right? I mean, the Yosemite National Park is shut down. But I thought that was interesting because other state parks and national parks and either or even parks around the world, maybe seeing this effect of the wildlife reclaiming the land. So here we go. Bears, coyotes, and bobcats are no longer hanging out in the shadows and have reclaimed Yosemite National Park during the coronavirus shutdown. Quote, the bear population has quadrupled, end quote. Yosemite Ahwahnee hotel employee Dane Peterson shared with the Los Angeles Times in a piece published Monday while noting a surge in the area's megafauna throughout the park. Quote, it's not like they aren't usually here, end quote. He added of the bears, coyotes, and bobcats that he and other employees that they now see hanging around outside their cabins and apartments. Quote, it's that they usually hang back at the edges or they move in the shadows, end quote. There's a picture of Yosemite there. I went to Yosemite back in 2014. My sister used to live in LA. She lives now she's back in the US because she had to come back, but she lived in the UK until coronavirus went crazy. But yeah, she lived in California for years. She's a college professor. So, politically speaking, we clash like crazy, like titans. It's yeah, it's bad. But anyway, she did take me out to Yosemite National Park back in 2014, and it is absolutely beautiful out there. Looks exactly like that, obviously because it is that. But anyway, all right. So, quote, you couldn't ask for a better place to be isolated, end quote. Peterson's coworker Warren McLean, a saucier at the Ahwahnee Hotel since 2017, explained. On March 20th, the national park was, in fact, closed. So I just wanted to add that extra tidbit in at the very end, just to let you all know that it's been closed since March 20th. So between March 20th and April 14th, there's been a huge surge of the, the predators of the area have been very noticeable. And one thing that I do know about bobcats is that bobcats are very reclusive. They do not want to be seen by humans for whatever reason. I mean, sometimes you might spot one, but from what I've read in the past, it's pretty rare to see a bobcat in person in the wild because they just don't ever want to be seen. They're either hiding or they're very camouflaged, or they're cats, so they're nocturnal by nature, but to actually see bobcats roaming around, I mean, that would be really crazy to see that. I mean, I would imagine going to Yosemite right now, like even though you're not allowed to go, if you had the permission to go to explore all by yourself, you might kind of get a taste of what the American frontier was like 150 plus years ago, right? I mean, I would think so. But anyway, I guess with that being said, that's really going to conclude the video. I don't think I got anything else. No, that was it. Number 9. Yeah, I got nothing else to click here. So I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you got some good news. We're plagued with bad news all the time in the media. It's really hard to come out with something good with all this bad stuff happening. So many people losing their jobs, and the economy is just being siphoned like crazy with trillions of dollars being borrowed against the Fed. I mean, it's really scary to me. I mean, I don't want to pay $20 for a bag of bread this time next year, for real. I mean, because if this continues, that's what we're going to be looking at. And our wages aren't going up. Our wages will stay the same. And that's what's really scary about the whole thing. But I thought this was kind of a good break from all the other videos I did in the past, where most of it was just bad news after bad news after bad news. It was just kind of nice that by taking the extra effort to piece these articles together, I was able to put together, generally speaking, a positive video that covers coronavirus. So hopefully that helps lift your spirits. If you have found any articles out there that I didn't cover, that's definitely worth talking about, especially if it was recent. Definitely drop it in the comments below, because I will check the comments over the next couple of days. That'd be awesome to get some feedback if there is any out there. There probably won't be, but that's fine. I mean, that's just the nature of YouTube. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Stay very safe out there. Stay very clean. Keep your hands clean. Stay isolated. Wear the face mask if you got one. If not, watch a YouTube video on how to make one from home. I did. I cut up a t-shirt that was half polyester, half cotton, and I made up my own little my face mask, and I threaded my sewing needle and all that. So I did all that. But anyway, definitely make one if you haven't yet, or if you're lucky enough to have an N95 mask that you can use over over a period of days when you go out. Definitely do so. Just stay healthy, stay clean, protect your loved ones, and don't go outside, or don't go into stores unless you absolutely have to, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and stay very safe out there. Thank you.